Our thanks to our patrons, Lonnie, Hansen, Dunbier, Paul Feilmann, Tim Reeder, Mike Schill, Jenna Smith, Dan Hedrick, Carl Jackson, Richard Gude, Daniel Ammons, Sara Rogers, Troy Lewellen, Kristine Gerber, Jay Hanna, Jim Collison, and the Great Plains Black History Museum, open by appointment Thursday through Saturday from 1 to 5. The North Omaha History Podcast is a volunteer effort, but you can help us meet expenses by becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month. Go to patreon.com/Omaha.
Welcome to the North Omaha History Podcast with noted author and historian Adam Fletcher Sassy. Each week, Adam takes you on a guided tour through Omaha's dynamic past.
The oldest neighborhoods in the North Omaha community are Florence and the near North Side, which is immediately north of North Downtown and south of Pratt Street. Other outlying houses and buildings may exist, but are largely hidden by the newer developments around them. So here are 10 of the oldest buildings in North Omaha, all built more than 125 years ago. Wow, Adam, this sounds great.
Oh, Steve, it's just a great story. Let's go into it. You know, a little while ago, we did a podcast on the oldest towns in Omaha, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that there might be a lot more old houses than what I'm going to share right here. But I would also have to tell you, I've never heard anybody else account for the oldest houses in Omaha the way that I'm going to share it right now. So for those of you who are listening along at home, check this out. I'm going to share addresses, I'm going to share dates, and I'm going to tell you about the houses. Sometimes the houses are not pretty to look at. That's right. Some of them are junk. They just don't look great. But I'm of the belief that even these houses, a shotgun shack built in the middle of downtown Omaha 150 years ago, should be preserved, if only because it holds 150 years, 15 decades of the city's history. The first house that I'm talking about is at 2902 North 25th Street. 2902 North 25th Street. It's a little shotgun shack. Seriously, you open up the front door and you could see all the way to the backyard. This beautiful little house it was built in 1870. It's located today where we think of as 25th and 4th. So way up there. This little house was built in the Kuntz Place neighborhood in 1870. It has 1,900 square feet in this shotgun shack style. Now, shotgun shack, that means that you can literally open up the front door and see all the way to the backyard because of how small it was, but also how the house was built. It would have one hallway down the side and all of the rooms off on the side, generally speaking. Or alternatively, it could have one hallway down the middle with the rooms on either side of that hallway. But that's how it was configured. Now, this little 1,900 square foot house had 6 rooms in it. Out of that 6 rooms, you had a living room, a dining room, and a kitchen. So there's 3 rooms gone already. It had 2 bedrooms, or it has 2 bedrooms, and it has 2 bathrooms. It was originally built in a little Victorian style, and it would have had these East Lake features. Now, East Lake, Steve, that's the one where they used lots of woodwork, scrolling woodwork, and it looked very ornate and pretty. And it would have had a couple of those embellishments, including like ornate porch detailing and different flourishes around the inside of the home. I have no idea what the inside of the home is like today. But if you just look at the outside, you can see the tallness of the windows, the sharpness of the peak of the roof really indicate its age. 151 years old today. The next house that I want to talk about is at 1117 North 20th Street. 1117 North 20th Street was built way back in 1885. It's down by Paul Street, north of Cumming. And this little house is just 800 square feet. It predates paved streets in Omaha. It predates running water in Omaha. It predates indoor bathrooms in Omaha. It predates street lights in Omaha. And it predates even regular horse-drawn streetcar service. And yet it still stands right now. You could see on the front of the house, the original foundation might still be intact, or it was replaced or put in a long time ago. It also has a little Victorian flourish that's been covered up with vinyl siding, but at one point it had a little turret on the front side. Now, at 3030 Evans Street, over by 30th and Evans, in the Bedford Place neighborhood, there's an 1886 brick house that was built in this kind of frontier style. It has almost 2,000 square feet on 2 stories with an 8-foot tall ceiling in the basement. The house itself has 12-foot tall ceilings throughout with 4 bedrooms and a central chimney. It's on a long, narrow lot. At one point, it was right next door to the Negro Old Folks Home, it was called. And just a beautiful house. It's packed with history. It's been in a historical African-American neighborhood for a very long time, and it's probably been owned by Black owners throughout the decades. The front porch today is enclosed, but you can imagine what it looked like. And if you check out my article about the house on NorthOmahaHistory.com, you can even see a piece of art that I drew to replicate what the house originally looked like back in 1886 when it was built. A very, very long time ago. More than 130 years. Another house at 1818 North 26th Street. 1818 North 26th Street. Again, that's north of Cummings, south of Paul Street. This is another shotgun shack. It's in pretty rough shape. It was built a long time before the Trans-Mississippi Exposition in North Omaha. It's a single-story house that has just 688 square feet. If you know houses, you know how small that is. If you don't know houses, let me tell you, it ain't very big. It's got 3 bedrooms and a kitchen and a bathroom, and that's about it. 1818 North 26th Street, built in 1883. One of my favorite houses in all of North Omaha is also one of the oldest ones. It was part of the original construction of Fort Omaha. Now, if you know history, you know that Fort Omaha was originally called the Omaha Barracks, and then a long time before that, it was located downtown. But when it moved up to where it is today, at 30th and Sorensen Parkway, Fort Omaha was built out of wood houses. All of the officers' houses, all of the non-commissioned officers, and even the soldiers' barracks were all built out of wood. In 1869, this row of officers' houses went in on the hill, where we know the brick ones are today. But those wooden ones stood there from 1869 all the way until 1900. In 1900, these eccentric bachelor brothers called William and Oliver Grenville, they ran a greenhouse on Florence Boulevard. They bought the house and they moved it to Florence Boulevard. Today, this 1869 house is located at 6327 Florence Boulevard in North Omaha. It was rebuilt, reconstructed a bit. The dormer on the front was moved, and some of the different elements were put around. I've actually heard from the original restorers of the house from the 1960s and 70s, and they've told me about a lot of the original things that they had done in the house to improve it and made it better. They shared some beautiful photos. I have an article on NorthOmahaHistory.com where you can learn about that renovation as well as see what the house looked like. Originally located on 2.5 acres, today the house has 2,500 square feet, 4 bedrooms, and sits on 1.25 acres of land. It also has a 125-year-old barn down the cliff behind the house. So very beautiful, very historic home. I call it the 1869 Fort Omaha house, and it's at 6327 Florence Boulevard. Another really old house that I love to look at and that just sparks all of my imagination is at 2617 Parker. It's at 26th and Parker Street. It was built in 1883. It's a 133-year-old house. It's even older than that now. Time keeps passing, Steve. Anyway, 2617 Parker Street was built in 1883. It's a 2-story home, or a story and a half, with 3 bedrooms. It has Victorian flourishes on its long and narrow house, and an interesting narrow lot. It's been in an African-American neighborhood for decades and decades now, over a century, and has more than 1,400 square feet. A person with an untrained eye might look at it and think it's not much to look at, but if you start to notice the historical details, you'll understand it's a special little house. So is the one that's nearby at 2537 Patrick Avenue. Now, 25th and Patrick is another historic African-American neighborhood, and this is a brick house that was built in 1885. 3 bedrooms on 1,500 square feet, Steve. It's got these tall, gorgeous Victorian era windows, a beautiful oval shaped decorative window that was one of the embellishments of the era. And it's a neat house to look at and imagine the history that it's been through. A house that's not so neat to look at, but is very, very historical, is at 1120 North 20th Street. It's right next door to another one of the oldest houses in North Omaha. This is a worker's cottage that was, again, built as a shotgun shack. It's got 4 windows on each side. It's got a door in the front, a door in the back, a hallway down the side, rooms all around. It's just 700 square feet or so, with a porch on the front separate. And it sits in the middle of a neighborhood that you don't think of as being residential. At one point, though, Steve, this was the near north side. This was the original African-American neighborhood in Omaha, and held a lot of history. I don't know all the history of this specific house, but what I do know is that it's well worth saving because it was built in 1875, 146 years ago. How many houses in Omaha can claim that provenance, especially if you go past 40th Street? Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention what a lot of people think is the oldest house in North Omaha. It's called the General Crook House. It was built in 1879, and it's a beautiful brick Italianate style home. It's got wonderful elements inside and out. It's been lovingly restored and maintained by the Douglas County Historical Society, and I have mad love and respect for this house. A couple of years ago, I had a chance to go and do a reception there to meet people from around Omaha and talk about North Omaha history, courtesy of the Douglas County Historical Society, who brought me into town. And I love the house, and I love the society and all the great work that they do. There are offices there, there are display spaces and other features throughout the house today. And I really recommend that once the pandemic's over, you go and take a look, because it is a beautiful, beautiful historic monument in Omaha. The General Crook House, located at Fort Omaha at 30th and Sorensen Parkway. Now, for all of its grandeur and spectacularness, though, we know that that's not the oldest house in North Omaha. We're getting there, and it's going to come around the bend pretty quick. I would be remiss not to mention this house because it sits right on the corner of 26th and Maple and is one of the most historic homes in all of North Omaha. It's built in 1870 and it is still a looker. It's been through a lot, and it's really not doing too great today. However, I would encourage anybody with a heart, anybody with some passion, to go and take a look at this gorgeous, gorgeous home. It's something else, for sure. Built in the Victorian style. It's got a tall turret that's remaining, a tower that stands there, and really has these tall Italianate windows. Lots of them have been covered, but with some restoration, it could be a heck of a home. The overall features really reflect that Queen Anne aesthetic and really hint at the spectacularness that this neighborhood once held. Another really, really old house was built in 1873 at 4922 Ames Avenue. Now, very little, I don't know much about the current ownership of this house. So if anybody does know, send me an email to info@northomahistory.com. I call this the Mergen House because it was built by a farmer named Mergen. I wrote an article about it on northomahistory.com. I'm not going to go on about it too long here, but I will say this. Built in 1873. It was added on to in 1890. It once stood in the middle of a gigantic farm. All of the land around it was part of that farm. It was turned into a plush estate filled up with beautiful English gardens. It became part of a suburban club, and then was carved into a housing development, commercial developments all around it. The Mergen House is beautiful, and you can look up its history at northomahistory.com. MERGEN. Now, the oldest house in all of North Omaha that I found. There might be older. I'm not saying that this is the final word, but it's close to it. And this might be the oldest standing home in all of Omaha that's continually used. It's not much to look at. It's actually just a squatty little thing that sits on a hill in the Florence neighborhood. Of course it's in the Florence neighborhood, because the Florence neighborhood is the oldest neighborhood in Omaha. It was built in 1859, and it sits at 8621 North 31st Street. Built in 1859. Steve, that's a lot of years ago, let me tell you. Now, this home is, like I said, it's squatty, it's small, but it is special for so many reasons. You know, standing right there, I think that there's a lot that this beautiful little house can show us. up in the Florence neighborhood. And I really encourage everybody to go take a look. It's right at 31st and Clay Street and on the southeast corner. You know, the town itself was platted in 1856. So this house is just 3 years younger than the whole entire town. It's just 800 square feet. It only has 2 bedrooms, but it's well taken care of today. The yard looks great. The house looks great. And it's kitchen, dining room, living room, I'm sure plenty for whoever lives there. But the fact is that it is probably the oldest house in Omaha today. And that's my report on the oldest houses in North Omaha. You know, Steve, I love this history, and I would love to share it with anybody who wants to see it. You can look up oldest houses in North Omaha history on Google, and my article will come up. There are lots of fun facts and other things that are included, including more pictures than you could shake a stick at, and a lot of cool details. I also cover the oldest houses in North Omaha history in my book called North Omaha History Volume 1, as well as Volumes 2 and 3, all available on Amazon.com. And that's a little bit about the oldest houses in North Omaha.
Thanks for listening to the North Omaha History Podcast with noted author and historian Adam Fletcher Sasse. Join us next week as Adam takes you on another guided tour through Omaha's dynamic past.